conversation. And this morning we're talking, about a topic, or we're diving into a topic that actually touches all of us at some point in life. We're talking about love and relationships. We're looking at it from a perspective many of us don't always think about. We are looking at it from the perspective of the law. Can a broken engagement cost someone money? Can or do cohabiting couples have rights to property or financial contributions if the relationship ends? What about children born outside marriage? Who is responsible? These are questions that affect emotions, finances, and lives in very real ways. Now, to help us navigate this, I'm joined now by two experts. I have a relationship counselor. His name is Frank Edem Adofoli. He's a counselor, and also Bernard Kwesi Adokwafo Esquire. He's a lawyer, and these are the two gentlemen who are going to have this conversation with me. They will help us understand both the emotional side of love and commitment, and also explain what the Ghanaian law says about engagement, about cohabitation, property, and more. So whether you're dating, engaged, or simply curious about your rights and responsibilities, please stay with us as we explore what the law really says about relationships in Ghana. And trust me, you really want to hear this, because love may be sweet, but the law is actually real. And so this morning we get into our conversation. I have lawyer Adokwafo in the studio, and also Frank Adofoli over the phone lines. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Let me start in studio. Lawyer Bernard, you're welcome to the Business Breakfast on Z.
Thank you so much. It's good to always be with you.
It's a pleasure. I think the last time we spoke was last year, somewhere earlier, January, February, thereabout.
That is so. I think it was in January last year.
Wow, yes. We've missed you. My audience have also missed you, but you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, and I have Frank Adofoli over Zoom. Hello, Councillor Adofoli. Good morning. Okay, I'm not too sure why I can't hear him, but we'll try and figure that out. All right, so we can begin the conversation. But recently, let me start from here. Recently, we heard a story of a man and a woman who have been living for about 11 years. And I'm sure many people listening to us this morning might have heard the stories as well. So they've been living for 11 years, and I understand that at some point the man says that he wants to let the woman go, and all of that. And it ended up in court, and then the court says that they are charging charging a man 200,000 Ghana cedis, first of all as general damages, and also as compensation for the woman for breach of promise, something called breach of promise. We're going to talk about that shortly. But first of all, tell me, why is it important for people to really understand what the law says about relationships, about love, and all of that?
Well, thank you very much. I think that the law is an important part of our everyday life.
Right.
And in fact, law is the only thing that regulates every aspect of our life. And so, though a relationship may begin, first of all, with, some emotions, the two people meeting each other and liking each other, they should know that whatever relationship that they are engaged in, there will come a point where the law will also step in and regulate whatever relationship there is. So a transition from, usually we look at the future of every relationship and hoping that it transitions from just a normal relationship into marriage. And the things that happen before you get into marriage, some of them are regulated by law. And at the same time, within the marriage institution itself, it's also regulated by law. So once you are in a relationship and it involves a commitment from each of the parties or the partners in that relationship, then you should know that the actions to some extent will be regulated by law, and not just by your emotions or how you feel when you see the person.
So that there are legal consequences to relationships, essentially.
That is so. That is so.
We'll look at we'll get more into that, but I understand that Frank Edem Adofoli, counselor and also ADR practitioner, has joined us now. Frank, good morning and welcome to the Business Breakfast on Z.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's good to have you this morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we've started a conversation here, and lawyer Adokwafo was telling us that it is very important for couples, or partners, to actually get a grasp of the law when it comes to relationships. You are also a counselor. I want to know from your perspective, is that something that you agree with? And if you can also share experiences of some people that you've engaged in terms of that, that would be very, very helpful.
Thank you. I agree with what the lawyer said. Law is an integral part of our life. In fact, you can't just get into any relationship without getting to know the law governing the land. And many a time we think that once I am in love with someone, I have my money, I have my space, I can invite somebody in, I can do what I want to do. But what makes us safe in a society is the law. So when anyone feels threatened, uncomfortable, where they can go and get a redress will be the law. So it is important every aspect of our life we get to know what the law says. Even especially if it comes to marriage, there's art on that. The lawyer will tell you. And unfortunately, a lot of married people has no knowledge about what the law says about marriage. And they just get into the relationship. Even at the age to have sex is different from the age to even engage in marital activities. And then people have no idea. They just engage in anything at all, just the name of relationship. So these happenings are giving us opportunity to educate the public that the law is an integral part of our life. The same way with the domestic violence and what goes on in various households. People don't know their rights. They don't know their responsibility. So others abuse them anyhow in the name of.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Right. Okay. I didn't quite hear the last word you said. You said in the name of.
What I'm saying that in our various homes, people in the name of relationship abuse each other,
right?
Because couples don't even know their right and responsibility, and there's this power play in a relationship. I have the money. I determine who stay in the house, what you do, and so forth, because of those power.
Right. And
they end up abusing those who are vulnerable. But if the vulnerable know about the law, they'll be able to seek a redress in the court.
Okay, right. So it's very important for people to know exactly what the law says about certain actions that they take. One of the actions that people take in a relationship these days, apart from the domestic violence and all of these things, is one thing we see is cohabiting. And I want us to start a conversation from there. And Lawyer Kwa, from coming to you, because I see that it's becoming a trend. They have more young couples living together. Sometimes I see very young girls who have moved into their boyfriends' homes and apartments, and they are living with them, cooking, doing all the chores and everything. I want to know, what are the legal consequences? And I'm going to come to Councillor Ado Foley on the emotional consequence. But what are the legal consequences for cohabiting with a partner?
Okay, so cohabiting has always been a part of us. I mean, it's as old as Adam, as we usually say. But cohabiting has its own, ups and downs. And so it is also one that is regulated by the law. The law is clear in Ghana that no matter how long you cohabit with someone, that relationship never metamorphoses into marriage per se. So it continues to remain as cohabitation.
Right.
And what happens is that...
Sorry, not to cut you. Maybe there's someone listening to us who even doesn't know what cohabiting. Maybe you can just tell us what the law says about that before we...
Cohabiting is a man and a woman living together in the same space. So they are living, maybe sometimes it may be pursuant to a relationship they have,
right.
And so they decide to move into each other. This is something that is happening. I mean, I've seen some articles and write-ups, especially even in our universities and all that. We hear these things are happening. But cohabiting is nothing new.
Okay.
But it is just that the law is clear on what cohabitation is. Once you cohabit with someone, that relationship never metamorphoses into marriage.
Right.
So it continues to be cohabitation. What it means is that whatever you two are doing together, you are doing it together as partners, not as married couple. Okay. And so there's no protection from the law as it will be for married couple. And then whatever happens between you will be based on your own equities as you do. For instance, if you cohabit with someone and you decide that you want to have a property together, you want to own something together, so long as it is a cohabitation, it will only be based on the equities of your contribution to it. And that is all you can always get away with if that relationship is broken at some point in time. It never metamorphoses to become marriage. It doesn't accord you the status of marriage. And you don't get the protection that is offered by Article 22, which is for couple or for married persons. You don't get any of such protections under the law.
So that means that if you move in to live with your partner, you probably will face the consequences if anything happens. What are some of the things that can happen in a cohabiting situation? What are some of the things that you've heard, or in terms of your legal background?
Right. So the courts have made a pronunciation on one of them. For instance, it says that a man is responsible for, all the medicals that happens within the setting of a cohabitation. So if you are living with a woman and let's say health deteriorates and all those things comes in, you, the man who have moved with the woman, or the woman has moved to join you, you are responsible for, the person's health care and all that. But that is the extent to which it can go. Aside that, it offers the woman no protection under the law as it offers for marriage couple.
Yeah. So if there's any woman listening to us this morning and is cohabiting, you're making them understand that they don't have any rights thereof in the relationship. Is that what it means?
Yes. So their rights are limited to whatever their contribution is in that particular relationship. Whatever they contribute, it's just two persons who have decided to live in the same space.
Okay.
And of course, maybe they may have some love for each other and all that, but it doesn't change the nature of it, and there's no protection that is offered by the law. I know there are so many arguments and so many write-ups on these things, yes, but it takes a different nature if it's one that can be brought under customary informal marriage. Then it takes a different nature. But so long as it remains as a cohabitation, then it cannot look like marriage. Yes.
How about people who are engaged? They get engaged without legal arrangements. What does the law say about them as well?
So our law in Ghana here is engagement is unknown to our law, because we have what is clearly stated in our Marriages Act, which defines the type of marriages we have. And in all these marriages, there's nothing like engagement. What we have actually been talking about engagement most often is our traditional marriage.
Right.
And so if it's the traditional marriage, then that accord, you get all the protection that is offered to a married couple. But engagement as it is, we do not have that in our law here in Ghana.
Engagement is just by creating the context so that people can understand. So engagement is you just going to propose to somebody, isn't it? That's engagement. That's engagement. That's engagement. And so if the person proposes to you and you accept, I'm talking to the ladies, and you accept, it doesn't mean that you have anything legally binding. The two of you, isn't it?
Exactly. You don't have anything legally binding because it's only a proposal that has been made and there has been that acceptance.
Okay.
But even as we will be delving into issues of breach of promise to marry, all those things comes up after certain steps have been taken. But the mere fact that the person has proposed to you does not give you any right under that relationship, not even to sue for a breach of promise to marry. Yes.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm going to come back to you on that. That's very interesting. Okay, so let me come to you, Councillor Adofoli. Now, Councillor, I want to know the emotional side of things. Now, people are cohabiting these days. People have gone through engagement without any legal consent or anything of that sort. Tell me, what are the emotional consequences of these things from where you sit as a councillor?
All right, thank you. I know people do this because of a certain promise of assurance that maybe I'll marry you in the future. I'll come to your family and see your family. And what's the possibility of the marriage working out if we don't experience marriage by staying together for a period of time? Let me steady you, you also steady me. But what we don't know is once we started doing this, we are becoming deeper in terms of the bonds we share, activities we do, things that we do makes that relationship deeper. Some maybe end up having children, others commit abortions, and they are so much attached to the relationship. Others lose time within that space. So the aim is whatever happens, get married to me, irrespective of the challenges we have. Let's get married. And so those who get into cohabitation, they have issue with mistrust. It's hard to trust the partner's time goes on because there's no legal background that is protecting them in the relationship, especially when the relationship travel for a number of years and that marriage is not coming, or they see their spouse or partner entertaining other people. There's that fear of, I might lose the relationship, I might waste my time being together. And they would like to fight for that. And that creates a lot of drama, a lot of conflict in that relationship. Again, besides the insecurity, the other aspect of it is it's difficult to trust your partner. If the person will move in with me without marriage, if we can have access to all the things married people are doing, we have sex, we live together, we take care of each other. The question is, when that person meets another man or another woman, what is the guarantee that they will not go with the next person? So that it's hard to trust your spouse or the partner that you are in that space with. So in terms of cohabitation, psychologically, emotionally, it doesn't make you feel good. You're sleeping with one eye open. One way you want to make sure that the relationship has a leg before you get into marriage, but you're also afraid that a day will come, the relationship, there's no future for it. So it creates a lot of anxiety. You don't really enjoy the relationship as you want to enjoy it.
Right. Are there some stats you can refer to as to the number of couples or partners who engage in cohabiting in relation to their ending up in marriage? Are there some stats like that?
Basically, I don't have some stuff to defend that or even support that. But outside the country, it has been shown that because of the high divorce rate, people have that fear that when they get into marriage, the marriage might not work. There's 2000 psychological release statistics, psychological statistical council released some numbers that as much as 400,000 people, in fact, separated, and as much as 500,000 people, they divorce. So those who are on a separation and those who are divorced, we added to almost getting to 1 million people. So with that fear, somebody might be thinking that marriage is so difficult. So why not I move in with my partner? So it's creating that fear that the statistics is showing that a lot of marriages or relationships in terms of marriage are not working or they are going through some sorts of challenges. So the only way we can try and experience marriage and see whether things will work out is going through cohabitation. But the fear is when you get to cohabitation, you are trapped. Or you are committing day in, day out, investing in that relationship, a relationship that has no future, but you keep on investing your time, your resources, and at the end of the day, you have nothing to show for it.
Right. I see. Right. Let me come back to the studio now. Thank you very much, Counselor, for that. So we mentioned breach of promise, and I told a story of how somebody had lived with a man had lived with a woman for 11 years, and he says that now I will marry you, just pack your things and leave. And the lady has taken the matter to court, and court says that we are charging the man. I mean, the court is ruling that we are charging the man 200,000 Ghana cedis, and that is to compensate the lady and also for some damages and all of that. All in the name of breach of promise. When we talk about breach of promise, what exactly is it?
All right, so breach of promise to marry. So it's not just breach of promise, but breach of promise to marry.
Right.
It's when, the two parties feel that some commitments have been made by one person to another, and usually a promise has also been made from the man to the woman, and he has not fulfilled that promise, or he has reneged on his promise to marry. And so it usually starts off in a relationship, and then there is that promise by one party, usually the man to the woman, to marry, and then at the end of the day, that does not happen, or he doesn't follow through with his promise. So that's basically a breach of promise to marry, and it's an actionable one. It's one that is part of our laws, and so you can sue in court on that if someone promises to marry you and the person refuses or does not carry through with it.
So somebody just talking to you, partners, you're just sharing with your wife and said, I want to marry you, and I want to marry you, I want to marry you. Does that qualify as breach of promise?
Yes. So to some extent, yes and no, in the sense that it's first of all starts off with a promise being made by one party. The whole marriage thing in law is somehow a contract.
Yeah.
And a contract means that it must fulfill all the elements of a contract. So once a person has made a promise to marry you, there has to be some consideration coming from the other party for it to become a binding contract of marriage. And the court has stated clearly in quite a number of cases that there has to be something which the person can hold on as consideration. Mind you, when the promise is usually made, you and I and the court itself is not there. So the court cannot just base on a promise and say that, okay, someone made a statement to me that he will marry me, and therefore I also accepted that and it is actionable. You have to be able to convince us that indeed that promise was made and you relied on that promise. So in order to sustain an action in a breach of promise to marry, you must indicate that there was a promise, there has been that reliance on the promise, and there has been a commitment from your end, and that promise has been breached before the courts can go in and award you maybe damages, as in the case you have rightly stated. So it's not just about the promise, but there must be a commitment from both parties.
What you talked about convincing the court. What are the things that you use to convince the court? Is it that you have a recording of the person promising you? Is that enough evidence, or what things do you need to be able to convince the court that indeed this person promised me?
So usually what happens is that no one enters into a relationship and then, be planning for another day to come out. So things like recordings and other things might not be there.
Right.
But then the court has stated expressly that looking at the actions of the person, for instance, in the case that you have been the case study for, our listeners today, the court looked at the conduct of the woman. The woman had been helping the man, working on the man's project for the past 11 years. And for 4 years of her life, she concentrated on that. She helped the man to build that. As at the time she was doing that, the man was outside the country. The lady was here in Ghana doing all these commitments on behalf of the man. So that alone shows that she had that reliance. Okay. The lady actually abandoned her own home to move into an apartment together with the man. There was also the exchange of ring. So the man gave her a ring, which was also part of the commitment which the court had to look at. So all these things are things that the court looks at. For instance, in our customary marriage, our customary marriage knows nothing about ring giving and all that. So once in customary marriage, you present a ring to the woman, it means that there is that intention to take her or to convert that marriage. And the court has ruled that once you give ring under customary marriage, it means there is an intention to marry her under ordinance marriage or to convert that into a monogamous marriage. So it's based on the actions of the parties, and that is what the court will look at. Even in that very case, the man appeared in the brochure of the woman's late father. Wow. And in that, he was described as a husband and even gave that's for those ones. It happens. He even wrote something in it.
Wow.
In the obituary, yes. He wrote something in it for the family. So that all goes to show that indeed there was that kind of intention. So the court will not just look at it based on a promise or something which was said, but the court will go further to see if there has been reliance by the woman, and so there has been some form of consideration or commitment from her as well.
Yeah. I see. I'm still trying to get exactly the things. So one of the things is a ring. So if you give somebody a ring, does that mean that you've promised a person, and can that be used against you in court?
So yes and no, because the ring itself is one which shows that commitment to, take it to another level to marry. But the court does not look at it in isolation. Okay. The court looks at it together with the person's conduct. If I give you a ring, and since then there has been no commitment from you, nothing, you cannot come back to me and sue me for breach of promise to marry. Because, of course, there are people who have been given rings and those relationships have not ended anywhere. So the giving of ring alone in itself does not, amount to... Breach of promise is an actionable act in court. And so it's not just about the fact that a literal meaning of the fact that you have breached that promise that you will marry me, and so you are entitled to. You must fulfill all the elements of that offense.
So that is what I want to know. So in this particular case of the case study we're talking about, the man had given the lady, he had appeared in a brochure and all of those things. If you're in a relationship, or if somebody's in a relationship and they've not gone to that extent, maybe they've been together for so these people, they were together for 11 years. Does duration also count? The duration of the relationship count in this? That's my first question. And also, Okay, you answer that one, and then I'll add the next question.
Yes, so the duration counts. The duration is able to convince the courts that indeed there was that intention. So in our study, I mean, how would you have been with someone for 11 whole years? The person has been, I mean, faithful and committed to you. I mean, you have enjoyed consortium in all forms, and all of a sudden you want to end it in one day just like that. No, the court looked at the fact that the relationship has subsisted for 11 years, and that alone signifies to the court that there was an intention.
Wow. So what is the duration? Is there a duration for that? Or
It's always looked at on case by case basis.
case,
It's not cast in stone that the being with a person for a number of. I've seen things out there that, I mean, once you are with a person for 6 months, some says 3 years and all that, but that alone will not suffice. It has to be together with all the other things.
So what are the other things? That is my question.
Yeah.
Apart from appearing in brochure and also giving some money for the person to be involved in the project and also abandoning their home and all of that, what are the real elements that we
So in this case, that was what the court looks at to establish that. But it's on case by case basis.
Right.
So it's not cast in stone that these are the things you need to do to be able to establish it.
Okay.
But the court will always look at it on case by case basis. That is why in one case, the giving of a ring during the traditional marriage, the court interpreted it that there was that intention to marry under the ordinance. That is why the ring was indeed given. So under different circumstances, the court may come up with an interpretation which would mean that it has been established.
So that
but
depends,
until then, yes.
that means it depends on the judge
Yes.
to tell.
Not depending on the judge, but it depends on the circumstances of every case.
Right. So at what point can I want to also know, I mean, not me, but anybody listening to us, at what point can they say that this person has promised me and they've breached that promise? And so because, I mean, promise to marry me and they've breached that promise, and so I'm taking the matter to court. So you're saying that different circumstances will make me have a case in court, but what can I look at to say that, okay, this one actually I have to take it to court, or this one, Charlie, there's nothing? So I understand that the one that there is nothing is maybe just a ring. They've not showed any commitment or anything. But what will make me have a case?
Okay, so the first one is that there must be a commitment from the man. That commitment goes beyond just, making that promise. It goes beyond to taking certain actions, like in this case, I mean, even presenting a speech or something like that in the man's obituary and all that. That goes to show that there is that kind of a promise. And there has to also be a consideration or a commitment coming from the other party. So you may not rely necessarily on the person's promise, but you can rely on your own commitment to that relationship. Okay. So in this case, she had abandoned her own home to join the man. For 4 years of her life, she had committed it to working for the man.
Right.
So all these things can show that she had relied on it to her own detriment. She could have been, having fun. And even when in that particular case, the man stated that the ring was to ward off other suitors. And so if you are warding off other suitors, what are your intentions for the person? So all these things will be looked at. Yes, so that also counts.
Okay. I see. Very interesting. I have a question here from our audience, but let me just announce the phone lines in case somebody's listening to us and they have some questions. I have one message here, but I'm going to read that shortly. So if you're listening to us, this is a Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM, and it's Thursday, so we have a lifestyle conversation. Today we're talking about love and the law. What exactly does the law say about relationships and all of that, cohabiting and some other things like breach of promise to marry. So you can join the conversation. Feel free to send us your questions on 0544321019, 0544321019, or you can drop a comment under our live stream. We're on Facebook at ZFMGH and also on YouTube at Z Multimedia. Please engage us on those platforms. We'll read your comments for you. You can also call us on 03039566641. 03039566641, and then we give you the opportunity to ask your questions or make your comments. I'm joined, my guests are lawyer Adokwafo and also Councillor Adofoli. These are the two gentlemen who are helping us have this conversation this morning. So let us know who you want to direct your question to and they'll respond accordingly. I have some questions here. This one says that what happens when the other party, so you've done all that you've promised and everything, and the other party is not living to, Okay, let me read it specifically. It says that what happens when the other party is not living to my expectations, or because I've promised her, I still have to marry her. I think the person is asking in terms of what we're talking about for the breach of promise. So let's say the man wants to let the 11-year relationship go or end, and the lady move out because the lady is not living up to his expectation. Does that mean? I mean, what happens in that particular circumstance? Is it still a breach of promise to marry? Do you get the question?
Yeah.
Or because once he promised a person, even though they are not living up to your expectation, you have to marry them.
Yeah. So I think that once it becomes clear that such a promise has been made, and then you go against it, it means you have breached the promise you have made. But under normal circumstances, I think that some of these things becomes more visible to you once you are together with a person. And so you just have to know how to deal with such situations that comes up. You have to draw the person's attention to it and consistently remind the person that, look, we may not be able to carry through with this should this persist or some. There should be a conversation about it. But if you just cannot base on a promise after making a promise and then you go like, you're not living to my expectations, so I'm reneging on my promise. No, it doesn't work that way. So you have to, once you make that promise, you must be willing to carry it through. But once you are deciding to live your life together, there should be a conversation on it. I think Counselor will be able to, give us more on this.
Counselor Adufoli, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Do you have any comments to make? To add to whatever we've spoken about so far?
Yes, please. So what I was mentioning last is Ghana Statistical Services, not the council. Okay, so you see, when it comes to relationship, there's a lot of investments. There's what we call the emotional capital. When we share our secrets, our feelings, and so forth, the dreams all together. There's also a trust. A trust is an investment to the relationship. And let me commit the things we do for each other in the relationship. And the most bigger part of all these resources is the time spent together. In fact, no amount of money can be equal to time spent. You can lose money and get it back, but when you lose time, you can't get it back. So when you are with people and you have that dream, that aspiration that one day we end up as a couple, and the person does not fulfill that dream, trust me, the pain is huge. The hurt is huge. And most of the time, we meet men who will ask you that, what do men benefit from marriage apart from children? And they want to make it sound like when a relationship comes to an end, it looks at only the ladies who benefit. But what they don't know is, if the woman feels hurt in a relationship, her capital investments are not taken into consideration. He will want to take a revenge on you or the hurt on you, whether it takes you to court, you want to get that hurt paid back in the form of any money or whatever it is. So we are meeting people and we are promising to them, we've got to be very careful. Let's be real. Let's be honest. If it says you are looking for talk about sex, it's kind of relationship we want to talk about relationship. If things are not going well, sit down and have a conversation. There was agreement or there was a proposal that started a relationship. So let's build a relationship to a closer and end. And then we have to agree that this is not working. If I have to compensate you in any way, let me compensate you. If I have to apologize for any hurt done to you, let me apologize so that you can forgive me. But treating the human being as if they are nothing, you move on and you try to play with power. That I have the money, you don't have the resources. I have the influence, you don't have the influence. I can do what I want to do. That will push people to do other things. So let's learn how to resolve conflicts. Let's learn how to dialogue, sit down as a couple, talk about difficult issues with ease. And we are not going to do that. Let's invite a third party to help us do that. A counselor could come in, any elders within a community who will be willing to mediate in that issue, to sit with us and then mediate. And when there's understanding that we cannot make the relationship work, we have to go on separate way. People go separate way, at least they have certain closer. If they have to continue with other relationship, they'll try to count their course and start all over again. But don't bully them and just move on as if the relationship has come to an end with you, but the other party, you've not ended a relationship with the person.
I see. Now, are there some common warning signs in a relationship that suggest that legal issues may arise later?
Of course, when you keep on threatening the person that, look, uh, you can take me to anywhere you want, I'm done with the relationship, people would like to pursue those threats and take a legal action against you. Once you started seeing another person, you've not ended the relationship, people would like to test the law. And if when we have children, sometimes this relationship, we end up having children, and then one party says that because the relationship has come to an end, they abandon the child, people would like to take legal action. The other part is people do commit a lot of abortions and spend certain money that they borrow from people just on a relationship. At the end of this relationship, it is an investment. And when those investments go waste, people would like to test the law. Sometimes we think that going to the court will require they have a lot of money to see a lawyer who can defend you. So those who are vulnerable, some consider the thought of going to the court, others will forbid. But if you ask lawyer, there are different type of courts now. You can go to the lower court and even try to use the registrar to make your case.
I see. All right. I have a question here from one of our listeners who's joined us on, I think, Facebook. It says that, can I sue my spouse for infidelity? I think that's what you're talking about. Maybe you can throw some more light on that, Councillor Adufuli. Oh, I think there's a law question. So let me come to
question,
yes, exactly. Let me ask Lawyer Bernard.
Okay, so infidelity, or let's say adultery, is itself not a legal wrong, because she's an adult, and whoever she's engaging in that relationship with, or whoever he is also engaging in that relationship with, they are two consenting adults, and the law is clear on that. Once they are two consenting adults, there's nothing that. But in itself, because it's a moral wrong, it's one of the facts that you need to establish that a marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. So though you may not be able to take an action on the fact that, there's been an infidelity, you can take an action with that same infidelity when it gives rise to a breakdown of the marriage. But so long as they are two consenting adults who are engaging in that relationship, the law has no remedy for you.
If I get you well, the infidelity itself is not something you can go and challenge. You can't take that to court and say my husband is cheating on me or is doing something.
That is so.
But if it gets to a point where things have to break, you can use that as a
fact or a basis,
right,
for establishing that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation.
Okay, so if you want to divorce the person, then now you can
use that as the fact.
Okay,
yes.
All right. And that was actually from Yaira Kojo Tete. She also says that I have another question. Can guys who pay fees for women they are in relationship with, and later the women leave them, can they sue the woman?
Well, this is also a legal one, and usually it's based on a promise.
Okay.
In law, there is something we regard as a past consideration. Okay. So a past consideration is not sufficient consideration. So if you have done things for me in the past, you cannot use that as a basis to secure a promise in the present. And so if you're a man and you want to do that, you must make your intentions clear right from the beginning, that for this that I do, it is geared towards this purpose. And if there is that agreement you can take her on to refund the money. The law will not permit that she should still marry you at all costs. Because you can't decree a specific performance in this regard. But right. It will be a basis for you in terms of like damages, because there has also been a breach in that. Yeah.
I see. So you might as well just do like an NGO work or something for the first thing, and then you just support their education, and then that is all. Because if you are doing it and you don't get anything at the end of the day.
Yeah. So if you are doing it with a particular intention, make that intention
verbally.
Known. Yes, verbally or in whatever, whether in written form or whatever, make that intention known. I have had an experience before where a man supported a woman through school and all that. At the end of the day, the woman wanted to, leave the man and not marry the man, because having gone to school, she had met some other people that she wanted to be with. When she informed her family lifted their hands and said, no, we are not supporting this, because you knew from the beginning that the man had this kind of intention.
Right.
So the family did not support the lady on that. And then at the end of the day, the lady is with the man. So if even the family knew, it means that the lady ought to have known that the man was doing this for some particular reason. But it is always clear to make your intention rightly known from the beginning.
So if you make your intention known and the person still says no, they don't, I mean, in the long run, they actually consent to it over time, and then in the long run, they decide not to marry you. That one you can challenge in court.
Yes, you can challenge. So it could perhaps lead to a breach of promise to marry, as we have stated.
Okay.
And then in that sense, you can also sue to reclaim whatever you have spent on the person. Yes.
I see.
And maybe with interest, yes.
Right. Okay. There are lots of other things I would have loved us to talk about, but because of our time, maybe let's touch on child maintenance. I know it can be a very sensitive topic. How does the law handle children born outside of marriage?
Well, in Ghana, we do not have illegitimate children. So whether a child is born out of wedlock or even within wedlock, they are all regarded as children per our law.
Okay.
What it means is that when we look at our Children's Act, the Children's Act is specific that in dealing with issues of children, it is about the welfare of the children. So the law takes away the parents to concentrate on the children. What exactly is in the best interest of the children? And so in terms of maintenance and all that, it's about seeing to it that the child is well maintained and the child is okay. The focus is not usually on the man. I have had situations where the men will say that they are not working and so, they cannot contribute for maintenance, but the court never agrees with such thing because the child cannot take care of him or herself. The child has to be taken care of. And it's not about you, it's about the child. And so that is what the court looks at in terms of maintenance. It's about the welfare of the child.
And so it is binding on parents, I mean, to both of you to take care of the child.
Yes, it is.
Usually it is, because I see most of the
In
times.
fact, it is even criminal not to take care of your own child.
But sometimes I see that usually this thing, what you call it, the responsibility falls on the father.
It's not in all cases. Let me vindicate the woman here. It's not in all cases.
Right.
Most often the children are even with the woman. And what happens is that a lot of things that the women spend on the children, they are things that you can't really account for. So with the men, yes, we are both to come out, I gave 1,000 cedis, I gave 2,000 cedis for the maintenance. But I mean, going through it, you might even realize that the woman even spends 2 or 3 times that amount on the child. Because when the child needs to buy toffee that is passing, the man is usually not available. The woman buys it for the child. There are so many ways the women spend on the children, much more than what has been given as maintenance or whatever the man pays as maintenance. And the women do very well in this regard. They do that.
Right. Okay, still looking at our time. Let me come to you, Councillor Adofuli. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Law is very right. So women value relationship more than what you call business or work or career. When we are growing, the focus is on a career. I want to get job, earn money, and do so and so. So that is our focus. But women is about relationship. So when they have a child, whatever investment they have, it's just of money. The money goes to the child. The same way when they are in love with a man or a family member, they will spend more on such a person. That's why it's hurt them so much when they find out that the person they love, they want to spend everything on. The person is taking them for granted or taking them for food, or ignoring their needs, or neglecting them, or choosing others over them. It hurt them. So I want our men to know that sometimes the women change because of the way we behave towards them. If you show them the right path, they'll follow. And if you give them genuinely and they are with you genuinely, they will give even more when they have the opportunity. But you show them that you have the power, you have a control, you can be mean towards them, and when they get opportunity, they can do worse.
I see. All right. So let's try and wrap up now, and I'll come to you, Lawyer Adukwafo. Yes, the Ado and Ado. It's confusing me a bit, but okay. Anyway, so for young Ghanaians who are listening to us right now, what steps do you think they can take to actually protect themselves from, to protect themselves legally while still maintaining a loving and trusting relationship? What are some of the things that they can do?
Okay, so I think that the first thing is that it's normal to be in a relationship, especially when you get to a certain stage.
Right.
But right from the beginning, we must always define the kind of relationship we are in and what that relationship is geared towards. In this era, it's easy to find ourselves helping each other to achieve our goals. But then it must be clearly stated of what the intention of the parties are. You will see that a lot of ladies, especially as Counselor was saying, commit a lot in terms of relationship. It doesn't have to always be one-sided. It has to be from both sides committing to that relationship. And we should not date in perpetuity. At least it should be defined. If you meet someone by the first 3 months, if you make your intentions clear to the person that this is what I'm looking forward to in this relationship, you should begin to see signs if that is a person you would want to be with. If you are not seeing the signs after a while, then I think that you better quit that relationship and move on than to stay in it and then be in it for so many years only for it to eventually come to an end, and you go away with a lot of emotional hurts and then commitments that have been made and usually unrequited. So I think that is what the youth should know, that the relationship is always a transition into marriage, and so the focus should always be on marriage, finding the person that you can live with, finding the person that will make the marriage work, and not just looking at the features, but concentrate on the fruits as well. The features here means that it's not about how big the breast is or how big the ass, but focus on the fruits, what the person has to offer. In terms of maybe the person being loving, being peaceful, being self-controlled, such that you can be in a relationship, and most importantly tolerant, so that the person can tolerate you, you can tolerate him, and then you can move on in that relationship.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me wrap up with you, Councillor Adofoli. Any final words?
I'll play with the youth. This one in school, they should do what students do. They learn. And if you are ready for a relationship, start at the right time. And let's not turn a relationship to transaction. Let's look at the values in people. It's not how much you earn, what you can give me, but what are your core values? Are you honest? Are you God-fearing? Are you hardworking? If there's no money, what will you do? Let's look at that. So let's pursue value. Again, let's also have at the back of the mind that not every relationship leads to marriage. Not every relationship will lead to marriage. At one point in time, the relationship is not working, we've got to let go. We don't need to be there and punish each other. But lastly, there are few things that make relationship work. Let's learn how to communicate properly. It's about sharing your thoughts, your feelings, your dreams, etc. But learn to listen to each other. Let's learn to respect each other. The fact that we have arguments, we have conflict, doesn't mean that we can say anything to each other and then come back and expect that we will have a relationship. Learn to respect each other. Lastly, trust is important. Let's have a healthy boundaries. You can't be in one relationship when things are not working and you just start entertaining another person. If the relationship is not working, let's bring it to an end before we move on to another relationship.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Adofoli, for those thoughts. And I don't know if you have anything else to say, or we're good. Okay. All right. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me. I think it's been a very good conversation, and I'm really grateful that you made time to join us this morning.
Right. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. All right. So those were my guests, lawyer Bernard Kwesi Adokwafo, and also Councillor Frank Adofoli. And these are the two gentlemen who joined me this morning. We talked about love and relationship in the perspective of the law, and we've learned a lot of things this morning. That, of course, there's something called breach of promise, and so you need to be very careful if you're promising somebody and the things that you're even committing a relationship. And also the fact that cohabiting is not protected by law, and so if you're living with somebody, don't assume that you are married to the person. So I mean, these are all things that we need to know. And when it comes to children as well, both parents are supposed to take care of their children. You don't say that because the relationship has ended, that is the end of your responsibility for the children. So those are some of the things. I hope that you picked a thing or two from this conversation, feel free to still continue to engage us on our social media platforms. Maybe we can have another part 2 of this conversation in the coming days. But thank you very much for listening to us, and thanks for joining the conversation this morning. And I'm really grateful. That's how we wrap up today on the Business Breakfast on Z. I've been driving you right from 6:15 till now, and we're back again tomorrow for the Friday edition of the show. We have a very important conversation tomorrow as well, so please do well to tune in, and you will learn a lot of things. Until then, please keep listening to Z101.9 FM. My name is Trebi Hammond, and this has been Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM. Up next is The Brighter Side with Jeremy Okoria Marco. And when you think Ghana, please do well to think Z.